Black sheep, marked from birth. Welcome back. I'm Adeline, 11 times published author, and this is The Black Sheep Becomes the Goat. A series for those who were cast out not because they were flawed, but because they were forged for a different path. If you were ever made to feel like a problem simply for being yourself, then you already know what it means to be marked. This is the beginning of Volume 1, The Black Sheep, and this first video is titled, Marked from Birth. To be marked from birth does not mean you were cursed. It means that the very energy you carried, your frequency, your emotional truth, your intuitive presence was already incompatible with the dysfunction around you. Even as a child, you were different, but not in the surface-level sense of quirks or tastes. You were different at the level of vibration. Your soul signature disrupted what others had agreed to normalize. And because of that, you weren't simply misunderstood, you were flagged. Spiritually, psychologically, and relationally, you were noted as someone who would not fold into the pattern. And that pattern had been running for generations. This is the core identity of the black sheep. Not a rebel, not a misfit, but a system disruptor by nature. Black sheep don't decide to reject their families, they are rejected by default, because they can't merge with dysfunction. Their wiring won't let them. The black sheep is marked by an inability to comply with silent agreements, emotional erasure, and normalized abuse. That inability, while often punished, is the seed of something greater. It is the sign of one who came to break the generational blueprint, not repeat it. Let's clarify what a black sheep actually is. In social language, the term is used to describe the odd one out, the family member who doesn't fit the mold. But in reality, being the black sheep is not about being weird or rebellious. It's about being incompatible with the lie. Every dysfunctional family system has an emotional operating system, unspoken rules that regulate behavior, enforce silence, and preserve power hierarchies. Most members, consciously or not, adapt to these rules to survive. But the black sheep's nervous system resists. They feel what others suppress. They sense what others deny. And they react whether emotionally, physically, or intuitively in a way that threatens the family's psychological equilibrium. This threat is rarely addressed directly. Families don't say, "You're too awake to be controlled." Instead, they punish, isolate, ridicule, or pathologize. But what's really happening is that your body, your emotions, and your instincts are registering the falsehood, and you don't know how to pretend it's real. That is what marks you. You become the one who reacts, the one who questions, the one who won't lie. And in families that depend on silence and survival roles, that makes you the problem. But here's the truth. You weren't the problem. You were the signal. And in systems built on denial, the signal always gets blamed. Most black sheep were marked long before they understood what was happening. You may have noticed that you were treated differently as a child, not because you misbehaved, but because something about you didn't land well with the group. Maybe you were more sensitive than your siblings. Maybe you cried harder, asked deeper questions, or noticed the tension others ignored. Maybe you felt unsafe even when no one else did. Or maybe you simply couldn't bond with the family in the way they expected, because their version of connection required self-betrayal, and something inside you refused to play along. That's the mark. The refusal to collapse. The refusal to merge with the wrongness, even before you had the words to name it. Your body knew, your spirit knew, and the family noticed. Even if they couldn't articulate it, they felt the edge you carried. You weren't fully programmable. You weren't easily impressed, and you weren't willing to pretend. That resistance wasn't conscious defiance. It was encoded. Being marked doesn't mean you were defiant. It means you were sovereign. What happens next is often consistent across families. The black sheep gets subtly or overtly pushed out, not always through dramatic exile, often through small rejections, uneven treatment, comparisons, or erasure. You were left out of plans. Your voice didn't count in family decisions. Your emotions were labeled as too much. You were criticized more than praised. You were the one asked to change, to shrink, or to just let it go when harm was done. And when you spoke up, you were called dramatic, disrespectful, or mentally unstable. This is the silent code. If you won't submit, you'll be sidelined. And still, most black sheep try to earn love. They spend years trying to adapt, fix themselves, tone it down, figure out what they did wrong. But the wound didn't come from a flaw. It came from a mismatch. You were trying to make harmony where there was no resonance. You were trying to get light from a system that depended on your dimming. That effort often leads to burnout, identity confusion, and profound grief. Because the black sheep does not want separation. They want real connection. They want depth, honesty, intimacy, and truth. But what they're offered is performance, silence, and control. That misalignment doesn't make the black sheep dysfunctional, it makes them accurate. They are responding honestly to what others have agreed to lie about. So when we say you were marked from birth, we are naming a spiritual and psychological truth. You didn't choose to be the black sheep. You were born into a system that could not contain your essence. And from the moment you started showing signs of autonomy, awareness, or non-compliance with dysfunction, you were labeled. Not with words, but with tone, with emotional distance, with subtle dismissals. with coldness, sarcasm, comparison, and emotional punishment. And yet, you didn't break. The family may have tried to rewrite your story to make you feel crazy, unstable, selfish, dramatic, or disloyal. But underneath all of that was one truth. You weren't willing to betray yourself to belong. And that unwillingness is what preserved your soul. The price was loneliness, but the gain was freedom. Not freedom you felt immediately, but freedom you would one day grow into. In time, what marked you will become what defines you. Your intuition, your honesty, your refusal to normalize pain, these are not liabilities. They are leadership traits. They are the foundation of who you are becoming. And though the family may have tried to make you doubt them, the real truth is this. Their rejection was proof that your spirit could not be owned. Being the black sheep is not a role. It's a signal. It's what happens when truth tries to live inside a system built on pretending. So if you've ever felt that your mere presence caused tension, that your honesty made you a problem, or that your sensitivity was treated as a flaw, let this be the confirmation. You were not defective. You were marked. Because you were meant to be the one who doesn't fold. You were meant to see it. You were meant to leave it. You were meant to rebuild something that works. This is not a story of rebellion. It is a story of awakening. And this is only the beginning. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.